Mitch McConnell is the senior senator from Kentucky. He is the longest serving senator from Kentucky. He is the Republican leader in the United States Senate, and some would contend he is the foremost Republican in Kentucky political history. He was born in Alabama, came to Kentucky as a young person, got involved in Republican politics, served as the county judge executive here in Jefferson County, which is where Louisville, the largest city in Kentucky, is located. Ran for the U.S. Senate in 1984 and ousted the Democratic incumbent and has been reelected 4 times since then. It's been a steady upward climb in the ranks of Republican leadership in the U.S. Senate. He came in with really no connections and no national reputation. Kind of built his reputation on issues like campaign finance reform, resisting a lot of measures of campaign finance reform. Got into the leadership and now is the leader and would aspire to become the Senate Majority Leader after the elections this fall. Well, his primary legislative area of expertise is probably campaign finance reform. He's still active in filing briefs in litigation in the Supreme Court opposing campaign finance reform that he thinks would infringe upon the First Amendment. But he's also done several other things. He is renowned as the foremost advocate for Burma in the United States Senate, and long before the issue of Aung San Suu Kyi and Burmese reform became widely known, he's been toiling in that vineyard for many years, and in fact he recently went to Burma to meet with Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel laureate in Burma. He had a measure to protect democratic institutions in Hong Kong. He was, during the Bush administration, involved in a lot of legislation that had to do with national security wiretaps, etc. He's a very soft-spoken person. He is a big University of Louisville sports fan. He reads a lot of history. He does his own grocery shopping here in Louisville, and he's often telling stories of people he meets while shopping for the groceries. And I think that's one of the ways he tries to keep in touch and avoid becoming a politician who's Washington rather than Louisville. He does try to come home and stay in touch with the constituents, both at ball games and doing things like his grocery shopping. But he's pleasant. He doesn't manifest much of a temper, but that doesn't mean sometimes that he doesn't get upset with folks. I think his reputation is that of being a very canny, very clever political operator. He is thought to be a master parliamentarian. In fact, he built his reputation largely on coming up with legislative strategies, using parliamentary tactics, and he's thought to be a hardball political player, but I think senators would also say that his word is his bond. He's someone you can make a deal with, and once you've made a deal, it will stick. I think the Democrats here in Kentucky describe him with a begrudging respect. They obviously disagree with him a lot, and they think he is ruthless probably in some respects, but they also admire what he's done to build a Republican organization in this state. It was and still is a predominantly Democratic state, but McConnell, while making his way upwards in Republican Senate leadership, has also helped build a much stronger, more effective Republican Party here in the state. You can't describe him as a beloved figure by any means, but I think you can describe him as a widely respected figure. He's been elected 5 times. He's done it with bipartisan support in this Democratic state. The people of Kentucky appreciate someone in leadership. You know, it had been a long time since a Kentuckian had been in prominent U.S. Senate leadership. They like that. He brought back a lot of things to Kentucky, and I think every local community can point to something and say Mitch McConnell had a role in helping us get that. And he's also been flexible. McConnell has not been just an ideologue who won't move or change with the times. He He has basically mirrored where the Republican Party has been. George Will described him as thoroughly marinated in the institutions of the Senate. He really is a creature of the Senate, and the only other position that I've thought he might be well suited for is Secretary of State at some point. But he's, unlike a lot of senators, he's never really wanted to be president, and I think that's been very much of a factor in his success in the Republican Senate leadership. He's always been a creature of that chamber and has never really thought he was a president when he looked in the mirror in the morning. I worked on the book for about 5 years, interviewed countless people that know Senator McConnell, had a lot of interviews with him. I had met him before, but we weren't by any means close acquaintances, and I probably would not have done the book if he had been unwilling to cooperate. The book is not an official biography, but the senator did cooperate with it. Sometimes I would share with him something I was thinking of writing, and he would offer his opinion as to where he thought that might be wrong, but I thought to his great credit, he would always say, you know, it's your book, and I'm not trying to tell you what to write, but here's my take on it. Sometimes I thought he had a good point and I would modify what I had, but there are parts that remain in the book that he doesn't agree with, I would have to say.
Like what?
Well, for example, whether President Reagan had coattails that helped Senator McConnell win his 1984 election. Senator McConnell disputes that, but I happen to think that there's something to it. There are also some criticisms in the book of some stands he took on various pieces of legislation that I'm sure he would dispute. The Medicare prescription drug benefit that was passed during the Bush administration is an example of where our perspectives are somewhat different. But as I say in the book, for the most part, I'm in agreement with the McConnell political philosophy. I'm a Republican, but there are instances in which we part company. Also, I was just very impressed with how this person who came from another state, was not a Kentucky native, and Kentucky can be a very provincial state. It's not easy sometimes for outsiders to make their way here, had done all this, and his discipline, his focus, and his tactical thinking all intrigued me.